Thank you, Ulrike. Good afternoon. I'm starting my chronometer. First of all, I would like to thank the Deutsche Frauenrats for the invitation. I'm really proud to be there to celebrate with you this anniversary. And I would like to give a special thank you, if you allow me, to Mrs. Brigitte Trims, who is here this afternoon. Thank you, Brigitte, to be with us. Brigitte was one of my predecessors as president of EWL. Maybe we should, yeah. She has done a great job, thank you. So as Ulrike told you, I'm not only there as a feminist activist, but also as, can I say, a result of the Parité law in France, because yes, quite young for politician women, and quite new. I was elected 4 years ago. So, the elections in France, how does it work? It's a little bit difficult to explain. It's typically French, so typical that a lot of people in France don't understand how it works. Sorry, that's really true. So, we have the election for the president, and which is really different, and then we have two different systems. One of them is a list system, and one of them is, we can say, a single candidate system. There is a candidate and there is an alternate. And the list system works for the towns, the regions, and the European Parliament. And the single candidate system works for departments, Assemblée nationale, which is our parliament, and the Senate. And the Parity law on June 2000 has two main principles. One concerns the list system and the other one concerns the single candidate system. And as you can see, they are quite different. For the list system, parity became mandatory, which means that if you want to present a list, you have to present a list with one woman, one man, one woman, one man, but often it's one man, one woman, one man, one woman. And it's mandatory almost for every list elections. I will explain that further. And for single candidate elections, which I remind concerns our parliament and our Senate, it's an incentive, a financial one. Which means if you don't present as a political party, if you don't present enough women, because they always present enough men, you have to pay a penalty. So it's an incentive, a financial one. As it was not enough, there had been additions to that law. The first one was in 2007. The law was extended to executives and smaller towns. Executives of towns and executives of region. Why? Well, we could have half women elected, but no women on executive at that time. So we had that law to say that you have to have parity within executives. And also, as in France, we have 36,000 towns, which is really important, and a lot of them are smaller than 1,000 inhabitants. We extended the parity law to smaller towns, but not to all. And the second part of the law was an increase of the financial penalty, because at that time, big political parties prefer paying penalty than to have more women. Something really, really special, really French, I must say. Wow. Another addition, really interesting one, and you will see the result in the next slide, is what I called a couple system. What is it? The departmental election was a single candidate election. So what we did is that we divided the number of districts, and instead of electing one candidate, now we are electing a couple, a man and a woman, and a couple of alternates, a man and a woman. We have the same number of people elected, but now we have parity at that level. And then in 2014, we had to double the financial penalty because big political parties preferred paying money than having parity within their candidates. How surprising. The results. Here are the percentage of women elected in France at the moment. The results on the left side, towns, region, and European parliaments, concern the election with the list system, so where parity is mandatory. As you can see, the results are not too bad, but it's not parity. Why is that? Well, when you have a list in France, we have a man, then a woman, then a man. So there are more men elected than women. The figures on the right are the figures for the Parliament and the Senate, and they are single candidate system. So as you can see, financial incentive is not working in France. How surprising. And the only good result is for the department, and it's what I call, you know, the couple system. Now we have the parity. So we would like to have in France the same system for all the elections when you have, instead of a single candidate, to have a couple. And further to that, there are still other obstacles. I don't know if you have that here in Germany, but in France we have a tradition which is mandates cumulation. But not only mandates accumulation of several mandates, but also accumulation of mandates during years and years and even decades. So at the moment, we still have quite old white male, I must say, at the head of towns or in the Senate. So it's really difficult to have more women, more young people, more people from a diverse background elected in France. The second obstacle, I mentioned it previously, is that big political parties prefer to pay than to have parity. That's all. And there are also other issues which not concern parity law, but which are linked to the situation and that we have to address as a society within the law or by changing society. The first one is violence. Violence against women still constitutes the most important and the most widespread violation of women's human rights in Europe. We have to have that we have to remind that. And especially when you're elected, when you're a woman, on social medias, on the internet, you can read so many things. If you want to have more information about that, I suggest you read our report from European Women's Lobby, published last year, called Her Net, Her Rights, where we propose a lot of things to change the situation within the law of European countries, but also within society. The second obstacle is, I call it work-life mandate balance. Yes. Well, everywhere in Europe, women still have a lot of job at home. They work. How could they be elected with such a burden? And how is life after you have been elected if you just want to run for one mandate? What is life after that? We have to think about that as a society, not only as lawmakers, but also as a society to change it. Because if we still have to work and to do all the work, to work professionally, to do all the work at home, and to run a mandate, well, you can't sleep. So that's really an issue. And the last one is not linked to law, to any law, but to change society and to change the way we act to have other women with us. It's mentoring. It's to be elected to be a politician is really tough for everybody, men and women, but especially for women, as I mentioned previously. And as everywhere in the society, we need women mentors. Because if you don't have someone or some people to support you, to give you time, to give you space, to give you a voice, you can't become a politician. But the mentoring things, works not only in the political area, but everywhere in society. And it will be my last sentence. Think about that. Think about what you can do as a mentor to support, to give more space, to give time, maybe to give your place to another woman. Thank you.